If you have social anxiety, saying no to plans isn't just uncomfortable, it feels impossible. Just the idea of doing it goes against everything we've been told about protecting our boundaries. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how you can say no without the guilt that follows. Hi everyone, my name is Blake and I am the creator of SocialAnxietyHaven.com, a website dedicated to helping people with social anxiety overcome their illness. When I was 19 years old, I was diagnosed with social anxiety, and one of the hardest things I dealt with wasn't the anxiety itself. It was the guilt that came with protecting my own time and energy. I would say yes to every plan, every invitation, every request, not because I wanted to, but because the thought of disappointing someone felt unbearable. What I eventually learned, and what I want to share with you today, is that saying no isn't selfish. It's one of the most important skills you can build in your recovery. And the guilt you feel around it isn't a sign that you're a bad person. It's a sign that your boundaries have never been given the space to exist. In this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly why saying no feels so impossible when you have social anxiety, and give you a simple framework you can use the next time an invitation lands in your phone and your stomach drops. So let's start with the real reason saying no feels so hard. Most people assume that saying no is difficult because of the anxiety itself. That if you could just calm your nervous system down enough, the words would come out fine. But that actually isn't the problem. The real reason saying no feels impossible when you have social anxiety is because of a deeper emotion linked to our internal experience: guilt. Guilt is an emotion that says, I did something wrong. And it is heavily linked to why you can't say no in social situations. Imagine this scenario. Let's say you get a text from a friend on a Friday afternoon inviting you to a party that night. And the moment you read it, you already know your answer. You're exhausted, you've had a long week. The last thing that you want is to spend your evening in a loud room full of people making small talk. Everything inside of you is saying no. But then something shifts. You start thinking about your friend, how excited they sounded, how much effort they put into planning this, how they specifically reached out to you, and suddenly the no that felt so clear a second ago starts to dissolve. What if they think I don't care about them? What if they stop inviting me places altogether? So you open your phone, you start typing, I'm sorry, I can't make it tonight. And then you delete it. You type it again, delete it again. And after the fourth or fifth attempt, you just type back, sounds good, I'll be there, and close your phone. For a brief moment, you don't feel any guilt about saying no, but it gets replaced almost immediately by something else: dread, because now you have to go to the party. This cycle of guilt, dread, and self-abandonment is exactly what we are going to untangle in this video. Because the problem was never the party. The problem is that somewhere along the way, you learned that your needs are less important than everyone else's. And until you unlearn that, no amount of breathing exercises or positive thinking is going to make saying no feel any easier. So if guilt is what's keeping you stuck, the question becomes, what does getting unstuck actually look like? I want to introduce to you a framework that changed the way I thought about this entirely. When it comes to expressing our needs to other people, there are three places we can land on a spectrum, and understanding where you currently sit on it is the first step towards changing it. On one end of the spectrum, you have passive. When you're being passive, you are essentially allowing other people to intrude on your boundaries without resistance. You say yes when you mean no. You shrink your needs down to nothing so that everyone around you can feel comfortable. And while this might feel like the kind of selfless thing to do, what it's actually doing is teaching the people around you that your boundaries don't exist. On the other end of the spectrum, you have aggressive. And this is the end that people with social anxiety are most afraid of. When you're being aggressive, you are intruding on other people's boundaries. Your needs become the only thing that matters. you push, you demand. You disregard how other people feel entirely. And because this feels so uncomfortable and so contrary to who you are, most people with social anxiety overcorrect. They stay passive forever because the alternative just feels so monstrous to them. But here's the crucial thing I want you to understand. Assertiveness is not aggression. They are not the same thing, and confusing the two is one of the main reasons people with social anxiety never learn to protect themselves. Being assertive means finding the middle ground between two extremes. It means expressing your needs clearly and honestly, while still respecting the needs of the other person in front of you. You are not intruding on anyone's boundaries. You are simply protecting your own. You are saying calmly and with full respect for the other person that you have needs too, and that those needs are worth honoring. That distinction is everything. Because assertiveness isn't about becoming a different person. It isn't about being louder or harder or more confrontational. It is about learning to take up the space you are always entitled to, without guilt, without apology, and without shrinking. So in the next section, I'm going to give you 3 specific scripts you can use the next time someone invites you somewhere you don't want to go. Tools that are designed not just to help you say no, but to help you say it in a way that feels kind, honest, and guilt-free. So now that you understand where assertiveness lies on that spectrum, let's talk about how to actually do it. So here are 3 scripts, one for each level of assertiveness, that you can use the next time you need to say no to plans. The first is a basic assertion. This is your default, the simplest, cleanest way to decline. You use this when the situation is straightforward and the person inviting you is someone who generally respects your boundaries. It sounds like this: I really appreciate you thinking of me, but I'm not going to be able to make it. That's the whole thing. No lengthy explanation, no fabricated excuse, no apology for having needs. Just a warm, honest, complete sentence that says everything it needs to without saying anything more. The second is an empathic assertion. You use this when you want to acknowledge the other person's feelings before expressing your own. When the relationship matters deeply to you, and you want to make sure the other person feels seen, even as you're protecting yourself. It sounds like this: I know you've been looking forward to this, and I really do appreciate you including me, but I'm just not in a place where I can make it work tonight. What this script does is it separates the no from the relationship. You're not saying I don't care about you. You're saying I care about you, and because I care about you, I can't come. That distinction is everything for someone with social anxiety, because the guilt you feel around saying no is almost always rooted in the fear that the no will be interpreted as rejection. The empathic assertion makes it impossible to misread it that way. The third is a consequence assertion, and I want to be clear that this one is a last resort. You use this only when someone has continued to push back after you've already said no, when the basic and empathic approaches haven't been respected. It sounds like this: I've already let you know that I'm not able to make it, and I need you to respect that. This one will feel the most uncomfortable to use, especially if you spent years on the passive end of that spectrum, but it exists for an important reason. Sometimes people push, and when they do, you deserve to have a response ready. Notice that this script is still calm, still respectful. It isn't aggressive. It isn't an attack. It's simply a boundary that's being held with quiet, firm clarity. Now here's the payout I want you to take away from all 3 of these scripts. The goal isn't just to say no in the moment. The goal is to use these scripts as evidence. Every time you use one of them and the friendship survives, you are gathering evidence that accumulates over time that your boundaries are worthy of being protected. And slowly over time, the guilt that once felt like a wall starts to feel more like a speed bump. The fear that saying no would cost you everything starts to lose its power. This is proof that protecting yourself isn't something you need to apologize for. It's something you are always allowed to do. I want to leave you with something personal before we wrap up. When I was struggling with social anxiety, I said yes to almost everything. Every plan, every invitation, every request. And I said yes to all of it. Not because I wanted to, but because I was terrified of what saying no would cost me. And what I didn't realize at the time was that all of those years were adding up to something I couldn't see clearly until much later. A version of myself that had been so hollowed out by people-pleasing that I didn't know what I actually wanted anymore. Nobody ever told me that my needs were worth protecting. Nobody ever handed me a framework and said, "Here, this is how you take up space without hurting anymore." I had to find that out the hard way. Over years of trial and error, and a lot of painful moments standing in corners of parties I never wanted to be at. So if this video gave you even one thing you didn't have before, one script, idea, or quiet slip to start protecting yourself, then it was worth making. You are allowed to say no. You were always allowed to say no. And the people who are meant to be in your life will still be there when you do. If this resonated with you, please hit the subscribe button below. I post weekly videos on social anxiety recovery and the psychology behind why it feels the way it does. And if you want to go deeper on what we covered today, I made a video called What Social Anxiety Actually Is, that I think will reframe everything you just learned in a really profound way. It goes into where the guilt and the people-pleasing are actually coming from at the root. And once you understand that, your whole recovery process starts to look different. That video is linked below. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you all next time.